Hello and welcome to the ARCHLine.XP webinar. My name is Zoltán Tóth. Over here is our resident architect, as always, Mr. Illés Pap.
Hi there.
This is the second installment of our Interior Design Essentials webinar series. Last time we talked about the basics and the fundamentals of how to handle interior design in ARCHLine.XP. We looked at how to create a very simple 3D model and how to use that to make a very stunning render at the end. We use some tools to add finishes, materials. We use some paintings, and we also added some objects. But now
we did some basic documentation, which we will cover later.
That's right. So this time we are going to look at a very specific topic. We'll look at bathroom design, and that entails actually a lot of things: tiling styles, quantity takeoffs, and documentation as always. There will be some things what we are going to cover at a later stage, but we will talk about them briefly today as well. As always, we are going to look at one of the example projects that we got from our clients, and we will illustrate the certain tools through this particular project. So one of the things that to talk about before we move into this topic in full, and that's actually a reminder of what we talked about last time, is imagine that you have a 3D model and you want to handle it somehow. So we first start with a couple of tips on how to handle your model, but before that happens, I just want to remind you that, as always, you're welcome to comment on this show on the right-hand side of this window, where you can ask your questions. At the end, we are going to devote a couple of minutes to talk about the answers to that. So one thing to sort out right off the bat is how to handle your model. So basically, what are the tools? We talked a little bit about setting up perspective views and things like that, but maybe a quick refresher on how to handle your model would be handy.
Yeah, actually, here when you have this project open, or any of your projects open, you have a default button that you will use a lot, and today's session I will also use a lot, is how to switch between the drawings. So now I have this drawing opened here, and if I click here on this button, this is the enlarge or magnify active window, I can swap the content, and if I select another content, then I can move on to the next one. So this is something that we just would like to highlight, that this is a very handy tool, and it's right there, so you don't have to start by organizing your content. And many times today I will also enlarge the screen. I will work in so-called full screen when I just click here on this button, and I just make it large. Sometimes I will use the quick shortcut button for that, which is F2, the function, the second function key on your keyboard. But without that, you're just fine by just clicking here. So you can also work in a one single window style and still developing the whole document. So this is actually the project which we will use today. It's a project. It's a version of a project designed by one of our interior designers, users, and it's now plain white. Only the walls and the ceiling and the floor is there. Also, there is some sanitary ware, which we will show you a few options how you can download and how you can use sanitary ware objects, and from where you can download these mostly free objects, nearly 99% free.
Yes.
Objects, and how to use them. And at the end, we would like to also introduce how you can make quantity takeoff out of this this whole design. Now, again, for the sake of simplicity and easy understanding, we are working on a small project, but everything that we do is also available on any size of and any type of project, either horizontally or vertically, and also it is not limited to these functions. I mean, you can also decorate exterior surfaces as well, pavement, and all other things. Now we are introducing this for interior design purposes.
That's right. One thing to clear up right off the bat is when it comes to decorate your walls or any kind of surfaces with tiling, you could be always use like one piece of texture for that, but if you use the tiling methods that we are going to show now, you'll achieve two goals. Basically, one, the tiles would be part of your quantity takeoff, so you have exact estimations, and two, you have a better control on the layout and how the tiles are spread. So let's talk about tiling design, how that looks like. So what are the tools that we have in terms of tiling these surfaces?
Yeah, we have the tool. It's a dedicated tool in the interior design palette at the top of the screen. It's here. As you can see now, we are seeing the the building tools, but there's the interior design and there's the tiling. There are a lot of separate things that you can do with the tiling, and you can either find these tools at the top of the screen and select the command and then work with something, or when you already have a surface like we have now, then you can direct click on that surface and then use a command. And very important, now we are using the tiling tool to tile surfaces, to add, to list and create tiling. But sometimes the name could be a little bit misleading because it's not only tiling. You can also use this for painting. You can also use this for any sort of other decoration, because the tiling is actually built upon two things. It's one of the background area, the so-called tiling area, the area itself, which is by default already colored or textured. It's your choice. I will show you how to do that. And the other thing on top of that, that area is the tiling itself, which can be regular tiles or also tiles that you design by yourself. I'm just stressing these out because we do not have in the short time, we do not have the time to cover all these, but it's worth mentioning at the beginning. So now, how to tile a surface. Now, if you would like to tile an existing wall, then I think now the best is if I just right click on this surface and I bring up this local menu, the context sensitive menu. Now, actually there is two ways to reach a context sensitive menu. One is if you directly just right click there and then you see the list of commands appearing. Or the other option is I just hit escape several times to get rid of the selection. The other thing is that if I left click here, then see this floating bar appears, which you can point put anywhere aside, and see this string here. This points to the place where I clicked. So this determines that whatever I see here and also the sub menu is connected to that surface. So either you right click there or you left click there, and the appearing floating bar gives you the possibilities. So now I just right click there and I select tiling, and there is something called the tiling on wall side, and I can either tile only this surface or all the walls, and then this dialog brings up, which allows me to set up several sort of different type design. We will also use mosaic tiling later.
Well, let's just go with rectangular for now.
Yes. Now I just work with the rectangular tiling, and actually the first step for the tiling that you need to set up is the material. Actually, name will come with the material, but you can rename it to anything else. This will be important for listing. But if you go into the libraries and you search either in your models already used materials, or you go to the libraries, you will find tile materials. You will find all those here, either indoor or outdoor materials, and you can just search for materials, existing materials, right away existing materials inside the software. Now again, just as we mentioned, I believe last time, this is a narrow selection of offline tiles. If you would like to use custom tiles that you find online, the day before we covered that, how you can visit a website, find a pattern, right click, copy and paste and use it as a material. So you need to first turn any sort of source into a material, and then it appears here or in other libraries, and then you can select that tile, for example, which is now vertically shaped tile. When you click OK, the software will recognize the size of the material that you set up on based on that
these are the factory settings,
texture.
right?
Well, these are the factory settings. If this is something that you imported, then these are the settings that you define when you set up that, okay, this will be the texture and this will be the physical size. So now these width and height are set by default from the material, and all the rest here, like the thickness of the tile, the grout depth, and the tile grout, is something that you can set up. Now there is something determining what you will cover. Now we will first work with the whole area tool, and in this case I don't need to define any sort of value here, because I just really would like to tile the whole.
Otherwise, you would be able to limit to a certain number of columns and rows.
Yes. See, if I'm here, I can define what I would like to and how many tiles I would like to put them exactly horizontally and vertically. But if I just select this option, it actually makes this whole setting disappear, because from that point on it's meaningless. And then I will just select the rotation if I would like to use any, and I can also set up some sort of pattern shift or row shift. which gives other opportunities as well, of course. But now I just keep it simple and I click OK, and then the software now tiles all the surfaces. It actually goes around and recognizes all the surfaces in this room and tiles the whole area.
What about the floor? How do you do that?
Yes, the floor is something similar. You can use the tiling tool, and here you will find tools for tiling walls, slabs, and other things. But if you just would like to tile something that is right in front of you in the 3D, you just right click there and you say tiling, and then there's the, for example, tile the full area. You can also, of course, tile areas like halfway this pattern, halfway the other pattern, but this we will cover with another example later. So let's just go with tiling full area. And I think here I should go with another version of this material, which is like this like the square shape version of this same pattern. These are actually patterns that are built into this project because we already used it, but actually you can bring in fabrics like just we did with this here. So I just click OK. Again, this will be the size of the tile itself. That's the thickness, grout, and this is just a small preview. I click OK. And I think this time it will be a bit more visual because now I'm allowed to pick a point, a starting point from where I would like to start.
From there you start with a whole piece, and then yes. I assume that you can also determine the direction. I mean, now it's not that relevant because it's a rectangular. I mean, it's a square tile.
Well, it could be because if I click here and then I move it 45-degree angle, then I can set up a diagonal pattern. Or if I just align it next to the existing tiles, see it appears in kind of out of the room, outside this counter, but of course it's not nothing that's important here because actually the software will tile this area, not the external area. So that was just a representation of the preview, and then we have everything tiled and covered. And from this point on, we will show that later. But from this point on, the software actually knows the exact amount of tiles that's necessary to cover this whole surface with these tiles here.
Now, what if I want to be a bit more elaborate in this? How about I want to add some extra shapes or forms or design elements, maybe change a couple of tiles?
Yeah, for that, I think I have a view already saved. Let me just go through these views.
While you navigate, I'm just reminding everybody that these are pre-saved views, perspectives, which are very good for this particular situation when you're working in a very narrow area where navigating with the mouse, the scroll and shift key would be a bit cumbersome, so you can just preset views and just navigate where you want to go.
Yes, I actually use saved views a lot, not only for the clients, but also for myself. Just like this, I can easily set up things that I know that I will work a lot with, and I just would like to have a nice and easy access to those. I can use the page up, page down button, just as you described, to navigate through these views and quickly find something, and then start working with it. Now, the reason why we came here is that I would like to show you how you can change a few of the tiles that you pick yourself to change. In that case, you just right-click on a tile and you say that, okay, let's just change the selected tile. That's the selected tile, and then you can also select other tiles in a pattern that you prefer. Now this will be a vertical set of tiles, like that. And then when you hit enter on your keyboard, then the software offers this modify the tiling dialog box, which allows you to change many things, but by default only the options enabled will have an effect anywhere. So now I just select this, and I think I will go with this pattern. I don't want to have a big difference, but I definitely would like to have different set of tiles with this decorative pattern. So I just select this, okay. See, now there's the tile name, there's my tile, and only these tiles that I have selected will be changed because of this setting here.
I see. So if you hit OK, these will be changed. Dimensions are the same. Just the texture.
Now it was set to keep the dimensions, so it will keep the.
Okay, so now in this case, these tiles have different namings as well. I'm just asking for this for the quantity takeoff sake. So this would be a different category in your quantity takeoff.
Yes, this will be a different tile with its own amount in the tiling list, which we will show at the end. It's actually an Excel file that we are talking about.
I see. Another question for my part. Maybe this is not the exact time and place to talk about this. So what happens if I want to create like a vertically layered style of tiles. And what happens if I want to create this kind of style where I want to have certain kind of tiles, then I want to have a boundary and another kind, but I don't
like
want
stripes or something.
Yes, but I don't want to change them individually because that would take a lot of time. So,
well, yeah, this is only, I think this is only working if this is a specific pattern that's irregular. That's not this is the best way to define. But what you are talking about, it's what we call a set. A style set, a set of tiles that we store in something. It's a terminology in ARCHLine, tiles. It works for walls, it works for slabs, it works for other items as well, and it's applied for the tiles as well. If you would like to set up styles for tile patterns, then instead of using these tools here, you first need to go to Interior Properties and Tiling. And here, this is a dialog to set up some sort of vertical or horizontal band or stripe list. Now, as you can see here, you can change the direction. Also, you can decide whether you design it from the bottom to the top or otherwise. And then now the default tile pattern is something that we used before. It's something that's called black. If I click here, we will see a list of styles that's appearing by default when you install the software. There's separate libraries where you can find a predefined set. Now I will build up something like this and I will save it on my own. So I will just close it for a while and we will come back later. And I will change the height of this band. I think I will use 0.75. I think now I will use my cheat sheet here. And I will just define that. And in the meantime, you can talk a little bit more about how tilings are created in ARCHLine for different other purposes.
So one thing that could be achieved using tiles, as you said in the beginning, we could use it externally as well. I mean, in every kind of situation where you want to have a quantity takeoff of a certain amount of things, it shouldn't be a tile. It doesn't have to be a tile. It can be any kind of covering element. Then you can use these tools for that. One example I can think of is externally for a pavement, for instance, or if you want to have a plinth around the house where a certain kind of item should be used for that purpose. This kind of tiling tools are very good for that because then you have an exact grasp on how many of them are used, and that is very good for actually cost estimation, I think, because that way you can keep track of the amount that you have to order. That's one example I can think of. And another, and that's going to be a very exciting, very unique way we are going to use tilings. Now we are later on going to create certain elements on the walls, and such as mirrors, which are going to be realized as a tile because the tool is very intuitive to handle. So we are going to use that. Obviously, you can do this kind of task with an object, but using tiles allows you a lot of freedom in how you want to handle two-dimensional shapes that you want to superimpose on top of surfaces. So I think that's another use. But every time we come up with a new use for these tools, it turns out that our users are much more knowledgeable and much more imaginative on how they use these elements. So maybe they come up with new and exciting uses which have nothing to do with exact tiles, but they instead rely on the flexibility of how we can distribute these elements.
Yes. Well, during design here, let me highlight what I'm actually doing besides the description. What my colleague told you, that what I'm doing here, I'm just continuously adding a new row with new settings, a new row with new settings, and in detail it looks like this. You have a row that you already added, or there was only one. You insert a new row, you set up these things, or at least you check these. If there is something, like for example in my case, the following is something similar that I already had. It's the fifth row is similar to the third row. Then in that case I can actually select it before I make a copy of this, and when I use insert, then actually these settings were inherited. So now the tile itself is similar, but the size of this stripe is different. So I think this is 50 centimeters, half a meter in width. And then I can also see where's the top elevation. I mean, this is the bottom elevation of this, but that's the top elevation of this stripe here. I can also decide from where it is distributed. Now it is decided to be distributed from the left-hand side. That's actually always the left-hand side surface, left-hand side edge of the surface which I'm about to cover. And also it's important to set up the grout itself. What will be the color of the grout? This could be white or this could be anything else. Whatever I'm about to set up here, I'm always clicking here, select another thing, and then I use that. Now I'm about to use all the same everywhere. It's some sort of creamy white color, and if I'm changing the tile itself, I'm just doing the same. I click here, I either check the details or I'm not making any change and just go and find another material and so on. So now we have all these styles, and now we could stop here if the tile style, the set of tiles is actually stopping at this level, which would be fine. But in that case, we would not determine how the top of the wall would look like. Now, if we would like to be specific and tell the software that whenever I use this style, which I'm about to save soon, then I can add the new row on top of this, make it large enough to cover most of my walls. I mean, this will be 2 meters tall.
And you have to sort of negate the texture on it, so you have
and then all I have to do is that I'm not using this for tiling. I disable the tiling, and then I click redraw. So now it disappears. And now it's creamy because the material cream was set on that. But if I go here and I'm certain that I would like to use white or any sort of other material, and I'm looking for a material called white, and go there and OK, and then redraw, and then from that point on, whatever surface I cover, which is inside this height level, like all of these together, it's more than 4 meters. It's actually 4.31. Then everything will be with this pattern at the bottom up to 2.31 and all above white painted.
Question from my part: why did you do it that way? Why didn't you just leave it empty?
If I leave it empty, then there is a setting for the wall itself. The wall itself has a setting for its one and other side, and it's like, you know, with transparent images. If you put a transparent image on something, then when you change that thing, this transparent part will also change. If I don't want that, then I determine that I would like to use it. If I just would like to keep it intact and leave it as it goes with the changes of the wall, then I just don't add this top.
Perfect. So now whatever happens with the wall behind the tiling, it's not going to have an influence on this white part above the style.
Yes. So from now on, whatever I do with the wall behind, it will always keep being white. So I think this is something that I like to use, because otherwise I might have a result just for an accidental change that I didn't want.
How do we place this onto the wall?
So now, yes, before we place it, we need to save it. So I will just click here and I click new, and then I will name it. Now, as you can see, this is a stylus with so-called folders and subfolders or categories. If you don't use any of those, or if you don't type new one, then this style will be at the same level as this black style now. I will just name it Albus by just using one of my tiles name, Albus 01. And let's say, okay, that's it. And now it's also appearing there. So if I can close this and I say, okay, from this point on, I can use a tool to cover a surface. But for now, I just erase this here. I just right click here and I say, okay, delete all tiling from this wall. So it disappears. And then now if I right click there and I say tiling, but instead of tiling on wall side, I choose select and place tiling style. And I will go with all walls because I would like to use that all around and then make changes on certain walls. So I just click on all walls, and then I select the style if it was not selected already, and I click OK. And then now the software goes through all the walls and changes the style.
That's right. That's great. Now, I have one question regarding this, because I'm not sure what the answer will be, but let's look at it nevertheless.
Yep.
So there are certain parts in this design. Let's look at the, just trying to navigate over that here. So here behind this element, this wall element, is the wall covered?
Yes.
That means that it's now covered 2 times, right? Once in the back and on the foreground as well. So
yes. So now because of how this project was modeled, it was actually modeled in a very simple way. Let me just reveal this trick. It was actually one wall and another in front of that. So when you cover a surface of a wall and when you tell the software to cover that surface, it won't consider unconnected walls. These are not connected together, not connected into each other. So now they actually behave like two totally separate walls. So the software covers one and the other. So either you can solve this by making them connected or model it somehow else. Or if this was the easiest choice, then you can still make changes on this wall. And this is what I will do. I just click on the 2D. Now I would like to introduce a new thing. I click here and I use the local menu, and notice that now I was intentionally clicking on this side, not this side of the wall, because when I click here, then by this click I already tell the software that I'm about to cover or edit the tiles on this surface. And then I go to tiling, and there is something called the tiling on wall side. Now this allows you to place down this frontal view of the wall, which is like we are looking at this wall from
it's a wall elevation,
point. It's a wall elevation, yeah, just only with the decoration. And now I can see how it is decorated in detail. And see, it's not that much strong in visual, but now the top of this screen is changed. I can't access now temporarily the other modeling tools because now I'm working with the tiling, so I have this tiling menu appearing here. And in this tiling menu there are two main areas. See, now this was what I was talking about when I mentioned background area, and this is the tiling on top of the background area. And this is just two ways how I can close this whole thing. So if I hit escape now, or if I click on finish,
then nothing will happen.
Then nothing happened. I just actually placed down this for perhaps some sort of documentation purposes, but we actually have a wall layout tool, which at the end we will cover, I think. And then I can just visualize it. But if I did it accidentally, I still have an option to go back to edit this styling once it's over there. I don't have to click here again and go through all these steps. I just click here, and I use the local menu of it, and I say continue tiling. So now the software understands, okay, that was a tiling layout, so let's work on that. So what I'm about to do is actually, as you remember, we built this up on stripes. Yes. And these stripes are actually background areas. One background area, 75 centimeter tall, another one, another tall height, and so on and so on. And these are areas that I can edit with this here. If I click here and I select, see, the software recognizes these areas. Yes. And when I click here, then I can check and change the boundaries of these areas. And just as in case of other things like worktop or slab or even wall, you can just click on this and say, I would like to place it parallelly, shift it left side like 4 tiles. And then I just hit enter, and then it's done. So it's removed.
So this could actually be also used to profile the top of the tiling, right? So
yes.
If you want to
actually
we have like a curve or something.
We have an example to that. We won't make it curvy, but in case of now, I think the next step I will do that when I use the mosaic tiling. I will actually edit the top of the this area. So and one more thing. Now you can also insert breakpoints like these pins here. These are the nodes, we call them. And so if I zoom in and I say, okay, insert a node here. Let's say I would like to place it over here. It's a very tiny drawing, so over here. Then when I click offset, then from now on I can just...
You can shift individual rows as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so actually the software actually created all the grouts and everything in detail, so you can just decide on which side of the grout you would like to cut this whole thing apart. Even you can cut these tiles halfway out and then just hit enter, and then now everything behind these the surfaces is just skipped. It was just removed. So now this is how you can edit it. I think I will keep this layout here for a while. And then I go now back and find the view where we have a look at this surface of the shower.
So what do we do here?
And here I would like to introduce the mosaic tiling. There is actually like 3 or 4 more other possibilities, but this is something that I can quickly introduce. So I just delete the tiling on this wall surface, and then I right click here and I just use the same tiling on wall side and on this wall only. And then here, see, these are actually all the 5-6 opportunities, possibilities, like by default types that you can use on the surface. There is actually something like the built-in patterns, like with several other settings, hexagonal and so on. You can also use the mosaic tiling, which I'm about to use. You can even define your own profile for these tiles and so on. Now, what I will do, I will just simply go with this option here, and then this will bring this option up by default automatically. And now I'm about to select 4 different tile patterns for all of these.
You can use a maximum of 4, right?
Maximum 4, yeah. So I think I will go with this default one that we worked on a lot today, this one. Then I will select next to it, I think it's this one. And then I go with something like, I think I will go with something more creamy or I think like this here. And then let's use white, but not this bright white, because I think I use this for coloring the surfaces, like painting them. So I will just go with the one that we already used. It was simply called white, and this should be this one. Okay, so now I did that. If I would like to make an uneven rate for any of those, so if I would like to make, I don't know, white more influential, then I just dial this up. So if I would like to change the percentage of these.
Proportion, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now these actually share the same amount of surrounded or distributed on this surface, just in a random pattern. So this is actually what the mosaic tiling tool does based on my settings and based on the dimension settings that I'm about to use here. It is actually shuffling these mosaic tiles around and makes a nice random pattern. So I just say, okay, well, all the rest of the settings are perfect, so I'm just keeping them on, and I say, okay, and now the software generates this random list, and when it's done, that's what you get. So if you would like to change this, if you would like to change the height of this
maybe
area,
I want to make it on the same level as the other tiles.
Yeah,
so
in that case,
do I use the 2D layout? So I spread this out.
You can use the 2D layout. And the same way I use the 2D layout just 5 minutes before, I can do the same thing here in the 3D layout. If I just say that, okay, I edit the background area here, then the software drafts the background area contour here. If the tiles disappear, don't worry, they did not disappear really. It's just sometimes the software is just getting rid of them, because at that point maybe they are not that much necessary. And sometimes when the performance drops, the software measures how the software performs on that computer, and if the performance drops, it is just simply skipping the tiles for temporary time. So I'm just clicking here and say offset, and I think I just match here, and I hit enter, and then now it should shear the top down, and then now I have this thing here.
Perfect. I think this is a very good tool, because this just illustrates what we always say, that's a lot of things in our software can do in 2D and 3D as well. Use whichever is more convenient, I think.
Yes. I'm about to show you one more thing. If you would like to remove, like just as we did here, we removed a part from behind a wall surface, an existing wall surface, just for the sake of not having duplicate surfaces decorated with the same tiles. But there is also another option why you would want to do this, to make space for another sort of tiling or another sort of decoration once you already have it, because you discussed this with your clients and they decided, well, that's a surface where I would like to see a nice large built-in mirror surface, for example. So in that case, I will show you here. In that case, I just do the same thing. I click on this surface, on the internal surface of the wall. And if for any reason, I'm about to show you this here, if for any reason another object is picked, you should just use this quick selection toolbar. It allows you to jump to the wall instead of the something else was selected. So I click here, see this is the area that I'm about to tile, and I use the local menu, tiling, and I just use the same tiling on wall side. And I just place it down. And see, now I think this is also something important here, because there was two options, tiling on wall side and tiling on wall part only. Now, because I have chosen tiling on wall side, and this is a one single wall designed by me, it's showing all the two sides, even with the connection.
Both sides are shown.
The both sides, yeah. If I choose the wall part only option, then I get either this part or this part based on my selection. So this way you can separate these surfaces if you want and work them on a separate layout. But now it's perfect for me, so I just select this layout and I still have these options here. And see this here, this is add new background area. Add new background area will actually remove the previous one, shear it down or erase
and
everything,
with another.
and it replaces it with another one. So I just use the add new tile background area, and then I pick a corner point, another corner point, another corner point here, and another corner point here. I don't have to follow the grouts, but it's just prettier now if I use this. And then I just click here, and then let's just change it to white. Okay, let's make it white. So now if I just close this, and I set up the camera, we will see that we have this whole surface over there, without anything on it, only pure white.
Now, in order to make a mirror over there, you are going to use styling, right?
Yes. I could choose mirror once I erase this area, and with instead of white, I could use the mirror option. But in that case, it's more like a mirror layer instead of a mirror panel there. Because now if I'm using the tile, I actually paste the panel over there with a certain size. So instead of texturing it, I really literally tile it using the tiling tool. But because now I already have the tiling layout over there, again, I just select it and I use this local menu, continue tiling, and then I add tiles onto this surface, which will be a rectangular profile. I go to the libraries. I have something called mirror. I think I will go with this one. And now I should set up the size. Now, because I already measured it before and I know what grout size and what tile size I'm working with, I will use a width of 2.02. It's 2 meters and 2 centimeters. And the height, I think it's around 0.8. Later I can change it, or I can just skip it, go back and measure it, but I'm certain that these are the values. And then instead of setting up a whole bunch of tiles here, I actually would like to only paste one. So I just say given row or column, and I set up 1 and 1. So it's actually only one tile.
If you click update now, it just redraws.
Yes. And now there is only one more thing left here. See, the default setting was rotate left because I used it a lot before. But originally it's already rotated, so I don't have to rotate it. So I just go with an original setting, and then now it's there. So if I click OK, then remember how I placed this whole thing on the slab. It works now the same. I just set up the starting point, and then I can set up the tilt. But I actually now snap it to the already existing ones, and now I have that over there. In the same way, let me just quickly repeat that. I can do this here. So what was the initiation order? It's like add new. I just design the contour, and then
first
I select
replace it with a white material.
With a white material. It was,
I think it was bright
white. Yeah. And then I just add the tile here, which, if I remember well, it was 0.81 and 1.21. Update, that's it. Now let's just place it over there and align it. It's always click, align, click, and then it's there. So now I can close this, and I have all the areas and surfaces covered, decorated with all these furniture and tile behind the furniture, And because I did not save this view looking behind, I just open up the perspective dialog and I just move this little blue dot and
just turn around and save this
thing here, and I just save it, add it to the list.
So apart from the tiles, there's a lot of other things going on in this bathroom. So let's talk about the sanitary ware, because I think through them we can illustrate how you can connect to external or maybe offline libraries to bring in new elements.
Yeah.
So let's see what kind of opportunities there are.
Well, we mentioned many times the 3D warehouse. That's a useful source. It's if you cannot find an object someplace else, warehouse is something that is managed by a lot of people, literally thousands, perhaps millions, I don't know, but thousands for sure, manage content over there. They upload their own content, sometimes makers, sometimes enthusiasts. So you will find sanitary ware there, definitely, sometimes even from producers. But if you would like to go for sure and you would like to just pick up something from a manufacturer, it's always worth trying first these BIM libraries. BIM object could be a good source. It's mainly for building parts or building structure, but you will also find many other things, decorative items as well, and sanitary ware a lot. And also there is something called Synchronia, Showroom, Sanitary ware, and Cadenas. Sanitary ware is, I think, the starter, because it's all about sanitary ware. It's all about all these tiny details, chrome surfaces and other details, like also hangers and towel holders and things like that you can find over there. This might not work by default, so you need to be aware that if you click here and the software highlights that, okay, this is not part of your software library yet,
and
don't worry. This is something that you can download freely from.
But it's free, and
it's free.
That's something that is being.
It comes with the default library of 10 makers for free, built in, and if you register on a homepage described on the page which leads from here to the proper page, if you register there, you can also access other free libraries.
Just one more word about the showroom. That's our own content library.
Yeah.
And the special thing about it is that it's having a large amount of manufactural items. So you're not only having the 3D element, but you can be 100% sure that this looks exactly and handles exactly like the real product. And that is, again, better for your cost estimation, because you will know exactly what kind of products you have in your design, which actually takes us to the next topic, which is quantity takeoff. So imagine that, let's suppose that we are done with the design phase. Obviously we skipped a couple of steps, but let's see that we are at the end of the design phase, and now we want to get some documentation out of this. So how do we handle quantity takeoffs? And let me just phrase the question this way: how can we get data out of this?
Now, actually, the data is already there. We just need to extract it somehow, because now the surfaces are literally tiled with real 3D tiles. So now, from this point on, the software already knows what to do with this when I instruct it to do so. So when I go to the documentation part, even those areas that I did not place a layout on this drawing will be listed in an Excel file. So I go to the quantity takeoff, drop it down, select Excel list, and I go with not interior calculation, that's for something else. I will go with tiling. And this tiling layout gives me a lot of separate offers that I can just select. Now, keep that in mind, that if you used tiling in a way that we always covered wall surfaces, we always covered slab surfaces. In that case, these two options are perfectly enough. If you picked up items from here, from the left-hand side, and you drop it on a door surface, for example, and you choose to tile that, you can even do that. But that comes with a few limitations, but you can do that. And in that case, other is also an option that you should use. If you tiled roof surfaces, then this is something that you need to turn on. I did not cover these surfaces, so I will just keep going with the walls and slabs. But you can also cover other areas. I will override the previously created Excel file that I did here for practice. So I just click Create, Save, and then the software brings up this tiling list in Microsoft Excel. And then I can see the name of the tile, the pattern of the tile, also some sort of description if there was any, and of course the size and the area covered with these tile patterns here. Even the mirrors are here.
I see that we haven't submitted any price values. Where can I do that in the software?
I can do that in the software, but sometimes, because prices change from distributor to distributor. Mostly, in my experience, people just simply list an empty tile list with no price, and then they change the price here. Mm-hmm. So you can paste it as a BIM option or BIM information into the software, but most people just do it in the Excel file.
Perfect.
So this is the summary. You will, whenever ARCHLine creates an Excel file, it's always coming with the first page of summary, and then you will find the areas in detail, and then you will find the tiles in detail. So it's perfectly listed, everything here, how much and how many surfaces and tiles were used here. And an important and interesting thing here is how to maintain this information. I mean, there's a lot of rows appearing here, so how can I determine that there is a wall with an ID, and what's this here? I don't know. Well, actually, it's not that much difficult to find, because this is the number which is a lot of help when you would like to find that there is a wall with number 180. I did not determine this value, so the software automatically numbers the walls. And when I would like to find this, what's on 180, I just go back to the software and I use this menu here. This is a selection menu here, see it with this little arrow here. And I go to the by properties option, I select ID, and I just would like to find wall 180, and then the software selects it.
Mm-hmm. So that's a very good way to revert back to your model, and if you want to change something, you can just do it that way.
I think it's very useful also on a small project, but definitely pretty much useful on a large project when I have a lot of information. Yes. And it's like a hotel with many rooms. It's simply easier to find this.
It's easier to navigate.
Yes, yes.
Now, although we are going to have one separate show on visuals, and that would be actually more about renders, but maybe there's a couple of things that you can tell us regarding the visuals, what we can get from here. One example I can think of is that now this mirror, for instance, is not reflective because this model is not in that kind of view. But how can we get some more stunning visuals, what I could even at this stage send to my clients to show how the project is going to look like?
Well, first things first, if you would like to make renders, you should make sure that the light is hitting your room. First things first, you need to set up lamps, just as we see in front of us now. You need to make sure it's a lamp, it's not just a downloaded object. We will cover this later, but when you download something from Google 3D Warehouse, the software is trying to figure out if it's a lamp or something else, and it is trying to convert it into a lamp if it's necessary. But other than that, you can also create your own library of lamps. You can just turn any sort of object into a lamp. Now, this here is a lamp, and if you already have lamps defined, which I have here in interior and lighting, and I would just place a lamp, then I just select some from the existing libraries, and once again we will cover this later, how to create your own. And I go to the spotlights library and I select this spotlight. I set up the base offset. I think this should be around, if my memory is correct, it's about 298 centimeters. That's about the ceiling level, and I say okay, and then I just paste one here. And then I would like to set up a grid of these things here. Then I just don't click and set up all the other items, but I can select the existing one, and I can go and use this brilliant tool, which is the duplicate, and it's called matrix. Well, that's nothing to do with the movie, but it's something to set up a grid. So it's you can set up a number of items horizontally and vertically, and when you say, okay, I would like to have 6 at this distance, you can even type that this should be, I don't know, 4.5 meters, or you just click, and then you move up, and then the same way you can decide where the other part will be, and then you have this many light sources here. Now, if I would like to repeat the same thing here, I just select one, Control C, Control Copy, pick a point, Control V, paste here, and let's just repeat this thing. I just select it, and I go to Edit, Duplicate, Matrix, and I just pick a point, and then now I will use 6 but 2 vertically, and I decide to distribute it like this. See, now again, a useful thing I think is that now there are points that are easily snapped, and this could result in a distortion. Distortion. I don't want that, so I would like to make it certain that it's vertical. So I just keep it around vertical, and I just hold Shift. I keep holding Shift, and then I move my mouse, so now it's sticking to the vertical direction until I keep holding the Shift key. So now I click again. I can release the Shift key now, and I can just determine where the other is, and then this way you can quickly distribute. There is another tool to quick distribution. This is also very much useful for all sort of objects as well.
Can we just grab a very quick render on this to see how it's going to look like?
Let's do that. I think I will find a view where we have a nice view, like from here.
That's good.
And I will just do a render. Now this will be a sketch render, and before I do that, let me just quickly show you that actually you can also change the representation style here, because sometimes people just would like to send over something quickly, even without rendering. Then you can change how the content looks like. You can change it to, like, only a contour drawing, realistic, which is also introducing some sort of reflection here. It's not the real reflection as you can see around, but it's already representing, introducing reflection. And then you can also decide to have this consistent color, which is very useful for color design and when you would like to discuss the real patterns and colors with your clients. So now if you would like to create a render, you just click here and you say you would like to go with a standalone render. You set up the size, and I think I will go with a widescreen render. And I will use the light sources, and I will enable sunlight as well, and the rest I just don't touch now.
Do we have the light sources on?
We will see.
Okay.
We will see. If the light sources are off, we will end up with the dark rendering, but by default lights, when you place them, they are turned on, so likely they will have a visual effect. What I did before to turn on this option, it's like a global switch. Even if your light sources are on, you can still decide to turn them off for daytime rendering, for example. So you don't have to manually tweak them and change their values or select them and fiddling around. But now I just would like to have the opposite, the opposite effect. So now the software passes the model to the renderer. The renderer analyzes this whole scene and starts rendering a default visual, which I will later, well, actually, perhaps they are off because everything is dark.
Yes.
So I will.
I have a suspicion that was going to happen. Yes. Let's turn them on. And
yes. So this is how you can manage actually these. These are on. So there must be something else I forgot about. But I think I have actually a final version of this project. So I will just simply load that. I will just go and open the final version when I already figured everything out and I turned on everything. And this is the project that I will render from the same.
That's exactly the kind of scenario when the draft render is very useful, because you haven't spent too much time creating a render which turned out to be not good enough. So you can just take a glimpse at how it's going to look like, and you saw instantly that there was something wrong with it. So you could amend this problem without having to wait for a very long render to finish.
Yes, actually that's why the real-time draft is also very useful. We will cover that later, how easily you can set up things and how easily it helps to make decision. Visualize. I think I turned this on instead of this, but anyway, let's just go with this and this, and then make a render. I just used the wrong switch accidentally, but now the same thing happens. The software from this point of view makes a render, it generates this model, prepares this model, passes to the renderer opens in a separate window. We will cover this as well, that there is two options in ARCHLine. You can either work with an integrated renderer, which is integrated into the project, that will appear actually like a literal window inside your project. But if you decide to go with the standalone render, which I have chosen now, I can just tear it apart and I can move it to the other screen if I have to, which we actually have here, and I can work on the model. And if I decided to use the real-time rendering engine, then I can keep it appearing here and follow the changes which happen on screen.
Perfect. While this actually loads and finishes the render, let's talk about what's coming up next time, because this, like I said, this was the second part of our webinar series focusing on bathroom design. The third part, that's going to be next Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's going to be about kitchen design. That entails creating cabinets and creating customized shelving systems and worktops and all kinds of equipment pieces.
All sort of furniture you will be able to create with those tools that are having carcasses.
Yes.
So I think I just terminate the rendering engine because this could break up the show a bit because it's very demanding.
Yes, it's quite heavy on the computer.
Yeah. So keep that in mind that when you do renders, now I have terminated it so it's not using the powers of the computer. But when you render, then you should do nothing else, even not streaming like we do now, because it really uses as much as power it can use the CPU and the RAM.
Perfect. These are some good advice, but we are going to talk about this at the rendering stage, which is going to be the fifth and final edition.
Yes.
Well, the fourth one. Fifth is going to be about documentation, but we'll see.
That's right.
We'll see on the website. You can check out the schedule for the next coming days and weeks, and we hope to see you next Tuesday at the same time, 3 o'clock p.m. Central European time, and we'll talk about how to realize amazing kitchen projects. Thank you very much for your attention. See you next time.
See you. Goodbye.
See you.